Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Certainly.
What has brought you here to Fintech Islands? Why have you come here in the first place?
Well, that's a long story. I have a very long background in financial services. I've worked with one of the Caribbean's largest financial services group. It's actually called Sagicor Financial Corporation for over 35 years. So I'm deep in financial services, and the Sagicor group itself is, into a number of other industries beyond insurance and banking. So I bring a very large background in those spaces, right? Financial services, health, and wellness, and wealth management, and so forth. So about 2 years ago, I took a decision to move on from the large corporate world and to join a friend of mine in the private equity space. They call it the noble profession. Because I have this continued desire to do good for the Caribbean. I'll tell you, a number of my friends and family over the years have in fact migrated from the Caribbean, but I chose to stay here in the Caribbean and to continue to do what I can to make the Caribbean a better place. So I linked up with my friend and we decided to form a private equity group. So we sat and asked ourselves, how can we make the Caribbean a better place? What are the problems that the Caribbean has that we can seek to solve? And 3 areas came to mind. One was climate change. And we have a small, I use the word footprint there. I sit on a council, a Caribbean-wide council, that is looking at, financing and introducing various climate change solutions, to put it generally. But then the other was access to financial services. When you need them at best economic costs, fast, etc. To a degree that you can compete with persons outside of the Caribbean. And of course, the third was health care. And as we dig deeper into our research, we learned about the impact that non-communicable diseases, NCDs, is having on populations all over the world, but especially in the Caribbean. So we were able to make contact with a sponsor of a new platform, relatively new platform, out of the UK, coincidentally. And his team is generally out of Queen's College in the UK. They've developed a platform called Reset Health that focuses on, this is what really excites us, it focuses on reversing NCDs without the use of medication. In fact, if you are on medication for diabetes, for instance, within 12 weeks, they will be able to take you off of that medication. And we have been, working together for the past almost a year now, seeking to set them up in the Caribbean. We've decided to launch in Barbados, and I'm proud to say that within the next month, which is the month of November, we'll be launching here in Barbados. We are at the stage now where we are recruiting staff. We have identified a panel of doctors, local doctors, who will be working with us. We've identified chefs who will be working with us. And we're more or less ready to go. Marketing and those other infrastructural and logistical areas will be addressed. So one of our verticals is the health and wellness vertical. On that vertical, we have a number of solutions. Reset Health is just one. There is another, more a general practice telemedicine platform called Your 24/7 Doc, DOC. We're going to be introducing that first in Jamaica. And we will be pushing that platform across the Caribbean too. But that's more general health services. Reset Health is specific to the reversal of NCDs. And those guys have been able to achieve some dramatic results in that regard. There's another solution we have which allows Caribbean doctors to refer medical cases and medical situations to participating doctors in the New York tri-state area. Top-notch doctors in their specific fields. So, if an issue develops in a Caribbean hospital with a patient, they can real-time share that information to a specialist in the New York tri-state area who will be looking at the patient virtually and providing input and guidance and support and so forth. So we're also very, very excited about that. And there are a number of other solutions that we have in that health and wellness space. But those are some of the ways to highlight at this time.
I want to bring it back. There's so many people talking about health tech here. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I want to bring it back a wee bit to financial services and fintech.
Yes.
Because it does seem that the Caribbean, Western Europe, for example, is based on cash and then check and then card and then phone. It does seem that the Caribbean has an opportunity to not just do a digitized version of what's come before, but to truly leapfrog. And to, especially with areas like Barbet, 200,000 people here, these sorts of populations, you can try new things and actually it's a lot easier to get everybody on board with various systems. What's the problem, but also the opportunity for fintech in the Caribbean?
Okay, let me start with the problem first. The problem, first of all, is regulations. The banking sector, and it's not that they don't want to participate, it is that in the main, the large countries, and I will mention a few, like the United States and the Europe, they view Caribbean countries and consequently Caribbean banks in not the most positive way. Let me put it in those general words, right? They consider them to be more high risk than banks in their own countries. So banks in the Caribbean are very, very, very careful, must be, in terms of the business that they attract and support, the types of transactions that they're allowed to process, even the clients that they're on board. They have to be very, very, very careful. So moving from the paper-based transactions where you can eyeball everything and touch and feel and so on, to an electronic, digital, where you don't have full line of sight of the path that transaction flowed, makes it much more, one, different, but also difficult for local banks to process. That's one aspect of it. The other is local regulations in the individual Caribbean countries, 20-something of them. The regulations are not yet supportive of financial transactions in a digital form, right? Some countries are ahead of others. Some have made very good progress. I recall, for example, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank was the first to launch a Caribbean, or rather central bank, digital currency here in the Caribbean. Then the Jamaica Central Bank of Jamaica, they launched, and they're are in the process of building out a central bank digital currency offering again. Trinidad recently approved some regulations that are going to be supporting digital banking and so forth. Barbados has a new framework that was passed, I think it was last year, by the Parliament of Barbados, and they're in the final stages now of building out the regulations and actually implementing those new laws. So they're coming along. The regulations are coming along. They need to be fast tracked, in our view. But the commercial banks, to be frank, need help to enable them to move from the old traditional way of banking, paper, being able to touch and feel, being able to look at the customer, et cetera, to a more digital, faster, more economically priced way of transacting commerce. And this is where fintechs come in. Fintechs, as best as they can, under the circumstances, are seeking to fill the need that the consumers have. The consumers want to have more autonomy. They want to have, transaction processing that is much faster, close to real time. That can be done any time of the day or night. That can be done with any part of the world easily, not having to wait days before a transaction that was originated is consummated at the other end, etc. We don't want to be left behind. So there's a lot. This is in relation to the rest of the world in terms of financial transacting. There's a lot of ground we need to cover, but I am pleased that there are a number of companies, including the large payment processors, such as the MasterCards, who are backing and supporting, Delta Capital Partners, I should also emphasize, but also the Visas and others are doing the best they can to support not only the commercial banks, the transition, but also to support the growth of fintechs.
The last thing I want to ask is, look, we're only half a day in, but how have you found the event itself so far today?
Well, I tell you, so far I'm amazed. I mean, the content is incredible. Sessions are sharp but deep. You have top-notch people who are speaking from varying levels. From the bird's eye view, so to speak, the top and looking down. You have technical persons, if you will, more from the ground up, etc. So there's a multiplicity of disciplines, not only hardcore, pure fintech, but also health tech, like what I've been mentioning, and the marriage and link between the two.